Alright, I'm done keeping quiet about this. How is it that churches in the West are suddenly catching fire? These are buildings that have lasted hundreds of years, if not a millennia, who have survived the Black Death, world wars, the fall of empires, but now in 2025, they're suddenly catching fire and burning to the ground? In Europe alone, anti-Christian attacks have skyrocketed with a 44% jump in just 1 year alone. In France, over 1,000 churches have been attacked or vandalized again in a single year. Just let that sink in for a second. In Germany, there's been dozens of reports of churches burning, and in the UK, 150 churches have been burned in just the last 5 years. Meanwhile, in Canada, 68 churches have been burned or vandalized, and there's hardly any arrests being made. But it's not just the fires. We're seeing sacred spaces desecrated, altars smashed, statues beheaded, elderly parishioners, grandmothers being spat on, targeted, and having death threats dished out to them. Meanwhile, their sons and grandsons are at home on the couch eating chips because they're too smart for what every single civilization has known since the dawn of time, that without a central transcendent story, you're doomed. But to be honest, I view all of this stuff as a metaphor for what's really happening in the culture. Let me explain. The modern mind, hollowed out by materialism and poisoned by moral relativism, can't even understand or comprehend why any of this stuff ever mattered. It arrogantly scoffs at the transcendent as mere fantasy, while flocking to cinemas to spend billions on vapid Marvel movies. Now, as G.K. Chesterton once said, it's not that when men stop believing in God, they don't believe in anything. It's that at that point, they become capable of believing in anything. I mean, just look around at the culture. People have been polarized into these radical pockets of the internet where they go on their own witch hunts to try and cancel anyone they deem not to be woke enough for them. And as faith declines, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and social isolation skyrocket. Past generations understood this. That's why at the very center of their cities stood the church, the literal beating heart of the community. But today, we're too good for all of that. We're now cursed to live in these soulless buildings, in these sterile shopping malls, in depressing public spaces with no beauty to be found anywhere. And we're doomed to be eaten alive by the relentless urban sprawl of modern, isolated living, where old people can die in their homes and not be noticed for weeks, only to have their inheritance eaten up by the state and by the multi-billion-dollar funeral industry. We've traded faith for fiction, meaning for nihilism, sacraments for consumerism. The fact that churches are burning down to the ground with hardly a protest is just a symptom of our nihilistic lives now. It's amazing to think that in an age so obsessed with tolerance, that we've now become so self-hating that we're okay with people burning down the very symbols of the civilization which has given us the freedom to be this foolish. If this isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. If you want to read more about what's happening to Europe and the West at large, there's an incredible article on my Substack which you can visit in the link in my bio, or typing the word read and I'll DM it straight to your inbox. Follow for more stories like this.